How's it going, folks? So, for starters, this is probably going to be a weirder episode. This has been a really weird week. There's been a lot of goofy things that came up. Nothing bad, nothing tragic, but as we were making an attempt to pull sources together and to record audio for this, I had a number of setbacks at work of just having to have stuff come up and get done, and ended up getting sidetracked by two other projects that hopefully will bear some fruition for all of you. So, more to be said on that later, but basically, in doing so, I had to cut down on a lot of the time that I would spend writing things out in advance. So, if my comments today seem a little scatterbrained and not up to the usual snuff, I apologize. Usually I script out most of my response for what's going to be said on this, and I'm going to be doing a little more freewheeling this time round. So hopefully it doesn't sound too bad to you, and I don't come off sounding like a man searching for things to say. So hopefully you'll forgive me this week, and you'll enjoy this episode where we cover Pin. Thanks a lot. I saw it on Linden Street. Hello, and welcome to I Saw It on Linden Street, the show dedicated to the joy of finding an appreciation in cult films, exploitation oddities, beloved classics, and all points in between. I'm your host, Chris Roberts, inviting you to join us here at the Linden Street Cinema Experience Theater, as we once again dig up a fun, cinematic relic from the past. If you're new to the show, thank you so much for joining us. This isn't your standard film review. Rather, it's a synopsis of a film that we feel deserves to have another inspection. A little background thrown in on the actors, some information about the director, and hey, if I'm doing my job, you might just get a half-amusing story out of me. Fair be warned, while we don't cover all aspects of the plot, we do discuss endings and spoilers. So, if you'd like to be surprised, please give the film a viewing before you listen to us. If you like us, and I would hope that you do, please recommend this podcast to a friend, subscribe, give us a favorable review. So, we continue our month-long theme of Blame Canada. That's our curated selection of some very underrated, overlooked Canucksploitation classics. And this week, we delve yet again into some psychological thriller territory with the cult classic, 1988's Pin, a Plastic Nightmare. Join us! This is a film that has stuck with me over the years, mainly because it was just such a strange viewing. I had come across Pin early on in my perambulations going through the local mom-and-pop video store when I was an undergrad in college. And it always stuck out on the shelf to me. I would keep passing it and looking at it and then passing it up again and always coming back to it. So finally, I believe I was a sophomore in college, I ended up renting the film, and on a typical Saturday night where I would end up staying in if I was on campus that weekend, I got a couple friends together. We had gotten some food, ordered some pizzas, had a few drinks, and we sat down to watch Pin, a Plastic Nightmare. And I can tell you, I very much enjoyed it, but I ended up freaking out my dorm room neighbor and friend, Steve. And Steve, after we got done, turned over and looked at me and just said, "You're a sick man for finding this stuff, you know that?" Which caused me to laugh immensely, and I kind of agreed with him, but later, as we would go on, I would keep mentioning to him, like, hey, we should watch Pin again. And he would get sort of upset, but he would sort of laugh about it, and eventually kind of agreed with me that it was a disturbing film, and it did have a certain je ne sais quoi about it. Doesn't mean he liked it. Doesn't mean he ever really, forgave me for making him sit through it. But I think ultimately it was kind of a creepy exercise. And that's what you want out of a movie. You want something that gives you that great, what did I just see? I feel so strange from having seen it. This is insane. Has anyone else seen this? I really should get someone else to watch this with me. And then the wheels start turning and plots start being hatched. And, it's a good film. It's something that is definitely worth your time. But let's dig into it. So Pin is based on the novel of the same name, written by Andrew Niederman. Now, that might be a name that either sticks out to some of you or doesn't. He's the best-selling author who ended up penning a little book called The Devil's Advocate that ended up being a big movie starring Keanu Reeves and Al Pacino. A lot of people know it from that, so you've seen a lot of his names on reprints of his former novels that used to be like pulp paperback editions, but now he's, as the years have gone on, has gotten some prestige from that. But he makes this great, tense little thriller, and it sort of dips into the same stream that Alfred Hitchcock's Psycho did back in the day, and it just does a slow build of letting tension and anxiety mount. Now, I have to say, based on the subject matter, which we will get into, Niederman actually makes totally sense as the author for this book, and then subsequently what became of this film. It was Niederman who ended up being the ghostwriter of, quote, new V.C. Andrews books, I believe long after the author herself had passed on. And V.C. Andrews, for anyone who doesn't know, it's sort of like what edgy preteen girls read when they want to like kind of sow their wild literary oats. There's almost every girl in junior high goes through a phase where she gets a copy of someone's V.C. Andrews books, or goes to the library and gets one and reads The Flowers in the Attic, and based on that, a gripping little tawdry love story that just has a light dusting of incest undertones is a really great way to launch a bunch of young women into the world. So it's kind of amusing that Niederman himself picks up the V.C. Andrews mantle and cranks out a lot more of those style literary tales when he himself is doing it right here in his own book. So just a weird sidebar for you. This film is directed by Sando Stern, who has actually done a fantastic job here in translating what is a rather creepy novel into a more fleshed out, albeit logically altered, for the big screen. Stern himself has a very respected career, both as a television director and as a screenwriter. He is the original author of the Amityville horror series, and he would pen those screenplays out, but he really got into making movie of the week style projects. Some of the big ones that he did in the 1980s, he was big for doing 84's Passions. He did the made-for-TV John and Yoko, A Love Story in 1985. And then he had the interesting 1988 adaptation of Elmore Leonard's Glitz, starring a very young Jimmy Smits. It's actually quite good. I wish that was one they'd actually translate to the big screen, because as an Elmore Leonard fan, I think it's a great novel, and it's actually a decent TV movie as well. Stern gathers people around and assembles a marvelous cast here for this film itself. You have Terry O'Quinn being called in and offered the role to play Dr. Linden. Now, Terry O'Quinn can be a very creepy guy. He was amazing as the original baddie in The Stepfather 1987 version. And most of you would actually know him from playing the role of John Locke on the TV series Lost. Now, his time in this film itself is rather brief. O'Quinn is only on screen for like the first half hour of the film, but he's still perfect as the dispassionate Dr. Linden, who only seems to lose his cool when he finally realizes his son might have a problem. And for that moment, O'Quinn is able to meet it with the proper level of intensity and just sheer authority that he's able to convey with a scowl and his furrowed brows. Actress Browen Mantell portrayed the cleaning-obsessed Mrs. Linden, and who, along with her husband, ends up contributing to the emotional and mental trauma that erodes the children's mental health in this story, and she does a marvelous job as just this very uptight, high-strung woman. So David Hewlett was cast for the disturbing role as older sibling Leon. Hewlett is now known for his reoccurring role as Dr. Rodney McKay in all 3 of the Stargate television series. And he is indeed fantastic here in this movie, giving Leon a bit of, well, let's say fragility as well as menace. Cynthia Preston, who is cast in the role of his sister Ursula, actually got to reunite on this film with Hewlett, as they were both in the 1987 film The Dark Side together, and this marked their second films each, so it was kind of nice. They got to keep working together as they went through their early career. Preston herself would continue on, closing out the rest of the decade, starring in some iconic Canadian cult horror films, including The Brain and Prom Night 3: The Last Kiss. I have to say, out of the 2 of them, at least The Brain is a bit more fun. Now, rounding out our characters, we have cast for Ursula's love interest, the great John Pyper-Ferguson. He has ended up getting the role of Stan Fraker. Pyper-Ferguson had a wild career, being associated with many cult films and television shows, including Hello, Mary Lou, Prom Night 2, Ski School, Bird on a Wire, Stay Tuned, and Unforgiven. But hey, many guys my age who are me will remember him better for his reoccurring appearance on Bruce Campbell's Western steampunk series, The Adventures of Briscoe County Jr., where he had the reoccurring role of the villainous outlaw Pete Hutter. And I must say, he was quite funny on that show as well. So it's always great to see Pyper-Ferguson whenever he shows up in something. The ultimate Easter egg for this film, though, Pin himself. That creepy, high-pitched whispering voice that you get to hear whenever the dummy speaks. That's none other than the great Jonathan Banks. And at the time, he was just rounding out a crazy decade for 1980s. Man, he had roles in films like Airplane, Coming Home, The Rose, 48 Hours, Buckaroo Banzai, Beverly Hills Cop, Gremlins, Armed and Dangerous. I mean, I can get on IMDb and keep reading you his film credits till I'm blue in the face. That being said, the only thing that the youth of today are going to really zoom in on him and recognize him from is playing the calculating ex-cop turned fixer hitman, the character of Mike Ehrmantraut, on the series Breaking Bad, and of course its spin-off Better Call Saul. He is perfect here. Gets real creepy with that breezy whisper, and he just makes Pin all the more disquieting and makes this film all the creepier. Well done. Now, that being said, this was a picture that was shot in Montreal, and it also received funding from the Telefilm Canada company, so it means it was another government cash-supported project, and in this case, it did not see a massive profit. Pin is and will remain a cult film. This did not have a wide group of people that went out to see it. Instead, it was pretty much a straight release and closed out quickly and just went to video the following year. But I can keep talking to you about a bunch of minor details because Pin does not have a deep backstory to get to. So how about this? How about I save you the time and we all just get to that trailer?
Pin is the one and only friend Leon's ever had. The only one who doesn't care that Leon's different.
God, it must be crazy to be here tonight. I defended you. Boy, was I dumb.
You never had secrets from each other.
Only Pin knows Leon's darkest secret.
Leon?
Hello, Marshall.
Oh my God.
When someone hurts Leon, Pin hurts them. When someone tries to come between them, Pin won't let them.
I don't think Aunt Dorothy will be staying with us for very long.
What do you mean?
Might take her a little while to
feel the vibrations, but I think she will. If you want to get closer to Leon, you'll have to take care of Pin before Pin takes care of you. Is Pin a friend?
Oh, please.
Or an enemy? Only Leon knows.
What have you done? What have you done?
What am I gonna do? Pin, some friendships die hard.
We open up on the old money, straight-laced, very, very waspy Linden family, headed up by Dr. Frank Linden, a man who holds his children to very strict formal behaviors and who uses a life-sized, anatomically correct, visible man medical dummy in his office to impart lessons and give lectures to both his children, Leon and Ursula. By way of ventriloquism, Dr. Linden uses Pin to actually get points across to both of his children as well as incoming patients. He seems to view this as a way to take away from some of the tension, and the children are fascinated by the things that Pin has to say. There seems to be a bit of a problem, though. Leon takes Pin very, very seriously.
I think we have another case of the flu here, Doctor.
Pin, it's very hard to hear a heartbeat when someone is talking.
Sorry, Doctor, but I'll wager this boy has a temperature of at least 104.
How much would you like to wager?
How about a wool sweater? It gets cold sitting here naked all the time.
It's a bet. Oh, I'm afraid you're mistaken. 103.2. Would you like to look at it?
It's not necessary, Doctor. I trust you.
Well, Richie, Pin's right about one thing. It's the flu. I just want to do a little blood test. So you come with me. We'll go see Nurse Spaulding.
Hi, Pin. Hi, Pin. I'm sorry you didn't win the bet. Maybe if you just ask Father for some clothes, he'd give some to you.
If I wore clothes, then no one could see inside me, and I wouldn't be any good for teaching anymore.
Well, couldn't you take them off when you had to?
I couldn't do it myself, and it would be too much extra work for the doctor.
Well, I could come by and do it for you.
You have to go to school. Anyway, we shouldn't be having this conversation. You know the doctor doesn't like me talking to anyone when he's not here.
We won't tell him.
You go out to the waiting room now. Pin is tired.
Now you have to put this in context. Dr. Linden is not uncaring, but is very cold and distant to his children. Leon and Ursula's mother, Mrs. Linden, is almost worse. She is uptight and an obsessive-compulsive cleaner who expects her house and her children to be perfect. She will clean up after them while they are eating, as in she will vacuum wherever they just stand and get up from the table. She is so uptight that it is implied throughout the film, at least in the early childhood segments, that Mrs. Linden is the real reason that Leon and Ursula are not allowed to have friends. It is because they are not allowed to have children over because she views outsiders as dirty and therefore does not want them in her house. Taking this all in, with both a distant father and a very, very self-absorbed mother, the only actual positive interactions the children get to have is literally with Pin, who at least makes his conversation seem playful and warm and caring. Unfortunately, Leon can't differentiate the fact that Pin is just an extension of his father. Whereas, at least Ursula kinda gets the feeling that Pin's a dummy, and this is all really Dad talking to us. As they get older, a 10-year-old Leon still can't tell the difference that Pin and his father are one and the same. He will get all excited and want to know what kind of gifts Pin has given them. For example, Ursula has a birthday, and one of the gifts is, quote, from Pin, a beautiful ballerina music box. And Leon is genuinely more excited about Pin giving the gift than Ursula is to receive it. Later that night, while they are talking in Leon's bedroom, Leon is marveling at the music box, whereas Ursula has come across an adult magazine that she got from a classmate of hers. She's more interested in talking about what things are going to be like when they grow up. She wants to go and interact with other people at school. It's Leon who keeps turning inward, who keeps talking about Pin, and who gets a little violent when his sister would even dare to suggest that Pin is not a real person.
This is just the kind of present I'd expect from Pin. God, would you look at this? Do you think I'll ever look like this? If you get caught with that. I won't. Do you think Mother looks like this? Where'd you get that thing anyway? Marcia Bateman. She found it in her brother's closet. You mean she stole it? She'll put it back. You know Marcia's already growing breasts. Those aren't breasts. That's fat. Marcia's a pig. She happens to be my friend. Your friend's a pig. You know what I wish? I wish Pin could come here and live with us. Father wouldn't let him. He's an office dummy. Don't you ever call him that! He's a stupid dummy!
Ursula runs from Leon's room and runs smack into her mother in the hallway, who catches the two children holding said adult magazine, and this is the catalyst for a sit-down with their doctor father and Pin to explain to them just everything about the birds and the bees. Now, Leon himself is very traumatized by all of this. You see, he had previously snuck into his father's office and was traumatized by witnessing one of his father's nurses use Pin as somewhat of a sex toy. Ursula, instead, is actually happy to ask questions about everything involved with human sexuality. And during the lecture back and forth between her father and Pin, she makes the connection that her father is absolutely using ventriloquism. She knows she's talking to her dad when she's asking questions. She is excited to learn, and she's confused by and hopeful about this concept that her father has laid out by way of Pin. He refers to it as the need. Both the children are explained that their normal sexual urges are going to be perfectly healthy, and they're going to have needs just like everyone else. The difference is they need to understand them and be aware of them and be responsible with them. Leon essentially is terrified by this entire conversation and turns even further inward, not wishing to grow up, and is disturbed as his sister says, "I think this sounds fun. I'm looking forward to being an adult." Here's the problem. We get to see an 18-year-old Leon and a 15-year-old Ursula making their way through high school. Leon is awkward, uptight, and rejects the advances and attraction that a bunch of women actually have for him. He's too busy worrying about the behavior of his kid sister. Ursula is 15, and she's gotten herself a reputation as being kind of an easy girl around school, which Leon discovers when he sees a bunch of men defacing Ursula's locker. He ends up at a school dance, finding Ursula in a car with a boy, where he pulls her and him apart and beats the ever-loving shit out of the young man, screaming at him, kicking him, telling him to get off his sister. Ursula is understandably horrified. As things happen, though, Ursula does find herself in a bit of a jam. Leon has forced her to promise him she will never embarrass him like that again with other men. She will never do that to him. Publicly be a whore. She will not see every boy in school. And for some reason, Ursula makes that promise. Unfortunately, a couple of months afterwards, Ursula finds herself pregnant. At first, Leon is angry, thinking his sister has broken her word to him. But no, in reality, the math checks out. This all happened before even prom. Ursula has a real problem. She needs real advice, and she goes looking to Leon to help her be, a brother. Someone who can actually talk things through. And instead, Leon comes up with the great idea that they should talk to Pin.
Let's talk to Pin.
Leon, I'm coming to you with the biggest problem of my whole life, and you want me to get advice from it.
From what? What?
Leon, he won't talk to us. You know that he won't talk to us if Father's not there.
It's because he's loyal. He knows Father doesn't like us talking to him.
Why go to him if he won't talk?
This is different. A really important decision has to be made here. I can't believe he won't help us. Leave the lights. Hi, Pin.
Hello, Pin.
I know how you feel about Father's rules. And I admire you for being so loyal. But Ursula has a decision to make. She thinks she's pregnant. I think she should tell the doctor. She's afraid. She wants to wait. She'll do whatever you tell her to do, Pin. Please. Please help her.
It's no use, Leon. Leon, let's go home.
No. I know it'll help us.
I'm going.
Don't go. Leon is right. The doctor is a truly scientific man. I don't think morality will affect his attitude. You made a mistake, and it must be rectified.
Please excuse her, Pin. She's really upset.
I understand.
I really appreciate your advice.
Anytime, you and I have a great deal to talk about.
Ursula is rather horrified by the response because she sees her brother has somehow mastered the art of ventriloquism himself. And when Pin talks, Leon goes stark still and just stares straight ahead, almost as if he's not aware that he is now projecting a part of himself through the dummy. Regardless, Ursula does tell her father, and while Dr. Linden is his usual stodgy, cold self, he awkwardly agrees to take care of the situation for Ursula. Leon is actually invited to sit in on the abortion that his father will give his sister, supposedly to be an educational experience, as the good doctor now wants Leon to start applying to colleges and expects him to go to medical school. Instead, Leon begs off and finds himself further disgusted with everything about this scenario. The one bright side for Leon, however, is since he and his sister went to speak with Pin, Leon now feels he can freely go and talk to Pin whenever he has a problem. And there is a long montage of Leon doing just that. Leon spends a lot of time when he's not in school or with his family talking alone in a dark room with Pin. Something that should be noted. But hey, this is not exactly a warm and fuzzy kind of family. It's only when Dr. Linden finds himself late for a medical convention where he will be speaking and forgets his slides. He needs to go back to his office and retrieve them. And it is there he finds Leon sitting alone talking to Pin. He hears Leon throwing his own voice back at himself, and he comes to the horrific realization that his son is indeed very mentally disturbed. Angry, but still able to keep his cool, at least somewhat, Dr. Linden sends Leon home, but tells him to exit the office out the back. He doesn't want his wife to know that Leon was actually here. Leon then, to his horror, sees his father take Pin with him, announcing to his wife that they're going to use the dummy as part of the speech he's given. And then, when he's done, he is going to gift the dummy to the medical college so that he no longer has to have the dummy around for Leon to talk to. During their angry drive to try to make the speech, Dr. Linden and his wife are killed as a horrific accident takes place. One which could be avoided if he wasn't, speeding. But regardless, the sight of Pin in the back seat sends the good doctor off into a skid that he can't quite get out of. Both of the parents are killed, the police are called, and the Linden children are called to the accident site to ID the bodies. It is there that a very happy Leon finds the Pin dummy and secrets him away from the site of the accident, saving the real person he loves, the father who was always kind to him, Pin. Leon loves the fact that his parents are no longer around. He revels in this newfound freedom. He orders junk food. He takes all of the plastic off of the furniture. And for a bit of that time, Ursula joins him in at least enjoying somewhat of a less uptight, formal existence. The part that Ursula doesn't like is Leon starts insisting that Pin be involved in every part of their day-to-day existence. Leon starts dressing Pin up in their father's clothes. Leon puts Pin in a suit that belonged to their father and wheels him about in a wheelchair. Leon is very, very clear that Pin is a member of their family, and Pin is going to be around for a long time. Ursula notes, however, that their mother's sister Aunt Dorothy is going to be coming to live with them, trying to, be a good influence on the up and coming Ursula, and, give some formal guidance to these two children. Leon is really upset about this. He's 18, he feels he can run everything by himself, and he can look after his sister just fine. He also has plans for their uptight aunt, whether or not she knows about it.
Leon! You can't do this!
I think we should discuss this outside.
Father did not want him in the house!
Outside! I don't have to be reminded about Father's attitude, and I think it's rude of you to bring it up in front of Pin. Father's dead. What do you think would happen to Pin if I didn't bring him home? He'd probably be locked in some closet or killed. He's family. More than any stupid Aunt Dorothy. I want him here.
Aunt Dorothy's gonna have a fit when she sees him.
She won't see him. I'll put him in the attic. I'll keep the door locked. Besides, I don't think Aunt Dorothy will be staying with us for very long.
What do you mean?
Do you want her here? People don't stay in a place they're not wanted. Might take her a little while to feel the vibrations, but I think she will. Don't worry about anything. Haven't I always taken care of you?
Yes.
And I always will.
Leon is not digging the fact that his aunt has come to live with them. He's equally upset that Aunt Dorothy has the gall to support and encourage young Ursula to get a job outside of the house at the library. No. Clearly, she is driving a wedge between Leon and his sister, and therefore, Aunt Dorothy must go. Late one night, Leon drugs Ursula, putting her in a deep sleep so she won't hear the screaming, and then he goes about trying to scare Aunt Dorothy, which he succeeds in doing by placing Pin in her room in bed with her, and then, using his abilities to throw Pin's voice, he has Pin scare her to death. It is a chilling scene, but it goes, I must say, into interesting places. He really had to know in advance that he was going to be able to cause a heart attack in his aunt. But it is confirmed she dies of having a weak heart and being scared to death. And so, the Linden children are yet again on their own. This time, however, Ursula has actually started to branch out. She has a job she loves. She has friends that are outside of the home. And she starts seeing a nice young college boy, a gentleman named Stan, who actually respects and treats her well. All of this causes Leon much in the way of worry, as he does not trust outsiders, and he does not want anyone ruining this perfect world that he is building for himself and Ursula.
How was your date last night?
It's fine.
Just fine? Is he worth going out with?
I like him very much.
Pin and I had a little chat. He feels that I was too protective of you. I don't even know this guy, and I should, so I want you to invite him over to the house for dinner.
Couldn't we go out for dinner?
What's wrong? You don't like my cooking?
It's not that.
What then? I thought we could have some drinks. I'll make cocoa van wild rice. Well, doesn't that sound like a great evening?
I don't think that Stan is ready to meet Pin.
Well, sooner or later, you'll have to meet Pin.
Leon insists that Ursula bring Stan over to meet the family. That means him and Pin. Ursula tries to prep Stan as best she can, and Stan, to his credit, comes and sits through a very crazy dinner with Leon, where he reacts with amazing self-control and interacts with a now fully fleshed out Pin. You see, Leon has taken latex skin and covered the dummy with it, given him hair, has given him a little bit of makeup on the cheeks to make him look like he's a, quote, real plastic man. It is disturbing. But Stan gets through with flying colors. He's complimentary of Pin. He's understanding of Leon. Everything actually seems to be going okay. That is until Leon announces that he would like to read some of his poetry to the two of them. Now, you need to understand, Leon, instead of going to college as his father would have had him do, has decided he is going to be a writer. So he never needs to leave the home. He's just going to write epic poetry. His epic poems all seem to center on a hero of his own creation, a hero that wants to do nothing more than to sleep with, nay, rape, his sister. After taking this all in, Stan is justifiably horrified at what this actually means for Ursula and where this puts Leon and his mental state. As Leon puts Pin back into the bedroom and comes back down the stairs, he catches Stan expressing concerns to Ursula.
He needs psychiatric help.
I can't do that.
You have to. He really believes that that thing is a person. Doesn't he realize he's using ventriloquism?
He's not hurting anyone. He can just go on living here and writing his poetry.
His poetry is sick. He's talking about raping his sister.
It's just a poem.
Is it?
Would you like another drink, Stan?
Thank you.
Leon, would you like another drink?
I'm feeling very well. If you two will excuse me, I'll go to bed.
Good night. Do you think I don't know what's going on here? I've read every psychiatric text in the library. Leon is a paranoid schizophrenic. No one is ever going to cure him of that. But he's my brother. And I love him. See that? And I will not see him put away in an institution.
I told you to be careful. I warned you about this person. Now look what's happened. He's turning her against us. You must act, Leon, before we lose her.
In talking to Pin, Leon convinces himself that Stan is only there to take Ursula away from him, justifying it by saying Ursula is worth a lot of money and Stan must know this. Therefore, it will be okay if Leon and Pin get rid of him to secure that Ursula will be with them forever. Leon ends up coming up with a plan to invite Stan to come over and see him, claiming that they're going to be setting up a surprise birthday party for Ursula. Leon ends up drugging a drink that he gives to Stan and causes the young man to have stupendously slowed down reaction time. It is only then that Leon reveals to him accusations and basically a plan that he feels Stan was using his sister and never really loved them and never loved him or Pin, and tells him he's going to make sure that he can't be with his sister anymore. Unfortunately for Leon, Stan actually tries to power through being drugged, and when he starts to try to stumble towards the door and make his way out, Leon ends up tackling him under orders from Pin and bludgeons the young man with a sculpture that he takes off of the mantle. There is now blood all over the floor, and there is a body that needs to be removed. Pin quickly tells him, get rid of the car, put Stan's body in the wood pile, we'll get rid of him later in the river. We need to clean everything up before Ursula comes home. She can't know about this. Ursula does come home, and Leon tells her that Stan called. He's going to be visiting a sick friend that's out of town, so he won't be able to make their date. Ursula is worried because that doesn't sound like Stan at all, but she believes her brother, and goes about spending the evening in with him, albeit she keeps calling Stan, trying to leave him messages, worried that she didn't hear from him herself. Leon barely is able to contain his laughter over the situation and his nervousness for the fact that he has gotten rid of Stan. Upon going into the family room, Ursula is horrified when she hears a familiar chirp. It's the chirp of a watch that she gave Stan. She finds it under the couch, and she looks and sees a blood spot on the carpet and realizes Leon has done something truly horrible. Upon Leon returning to the room, Ursula simply turns to him and accuses him. What did you do? Leon tries to play it off like he doesn't understand what his sister is talking about, but Ursula will not relent, and Leon eventually cracks, admitting it was Pin. Pin came up with the whole idea. It's all Pin's fault. Pin did this, not him. He was gone all day. It couldn't have been him. Ursula isn't buying any of it. She simply knocks her brother out of the way and runs out of the room. Leon tries to turn to Pin and tries to argue with him, asking him why he wouldn't lie for him. It doesn't matter, though. Pin starts to respond, and while Leon wants to listen, he's too busy turning around to look in horror as his sister rushes in with the double-headed axe, brandishing it and waving it over her head, ready to land it down. We suddenly jump cut to a good year or so in the future.
Hello, Pin. Stan and I are on our way to Cape Cod for vacation. We'll be gone about a week. Is there anything you'd like?
Wind the music box. Have you heard from Leon?
No.
I miss him a great deal.
So do I.
You see, when Ursula brings that axe down and crushes the skull of Pin the doll, Leon has a break with reality, and the Leon part of his personality no longer exists. Instead, he takes over the role of his personality that is Pin. Thus, he is trapped only in his own Pin persona. So when Ursula comes to see, quote, Pin, she is really visiting a comatose Leon who sits day and night in a wheelchair, not moving, and only speaking through the voice of Pin by way of ventriloquism. A prisoner in his own body. A life-sized version of an anatomical dummy. Alright, I mean, where do we even start with this? I mean, first off, let's talk about this concept in general of the failure of perceived perfection. Pin revolves around a family that values the appearance of perfection over a healthy reality of just functioning. Mrs. Linden is an obsessive-compulsive cleaner. The children aren't allowed to sit on anything unless it's been covered in plastic. She vacuums up after them after they finished eating. She is unable to deal with the notion of having a crumb of food on the floor. And on that same token, she doesn't even allow her children to enjoy simple pleasures of junk food or outside fun. Dr. Linden, he's equally cold and distant, and he is focused on the children being able to succeed in life, but not treating them as actual people. Before they're allowed to go to sleep, he ends up quizzing them both on math. When he wants to talk to them, or impart wisdom to them, or even punish them, he uses Pin, a dummy, as his go-between, which allows him to never actually have to step in and be their father. And that's one of the reasons that you have this whole disconnect in the first place. Everything the parents do seems to be basically predicated on they want things to be perfect. And it never works. It actually only sets things more and more off. There's so many things wrong with this family dynamic. One does not have to have the blood and guts horror here to show the actual strangeness, weirdness, uncomfortable feelings that are generated from all of the perceived interactions that are happening here. Leon and Ursula are encouraged not to spend time with other kids and only spend time with each other. It is unhealthy and wrong. Leon is off from the get-go, but no one notices because they're too busy making him behave like he's some sort of trained animal, only made to perform on command. By the time Leon starts showing his insanity, it's too late to do anything about it. Ursula, too, she has this weird codependence she builds both with her mother and with Leon. It shows. After her mother dies, she spends the entire time trying to clean a house that she doesn't even want to take care of, but she only does so because she knows it's what was expected of her. Likewise, she always seems to acquiesce to Leon's demands, even when she knows he's wrong, and even when she knows that things are off. Later, when she's with Stan, in more of an adult frame of mind as a 16-year-old woman, she is able to at least kind of understand there's something wrong with my brother, he's schizophrenic, but I still love him and want to take care of him. That at least is something missing from her earlier times. She has an evolution there as a character. While we're on this subject, I have to say, just total props to David Hewlett for playing Leon as he does. It is masterful the way he can so easily slip into singing the praises of Pin and coming off like a complete psychopath if you ever even mention the minor detail that Pin is not a flesh and blood person like you or I.
Where in the hell did these things come from? Mother? Father? From Pin! He's the best friend you've ever had! And for you to treat him the way you just did, the way you have since he came here is goddamn cruel! I want you to go downstairs right now and apologize to him. Now!
No! I am not going to apologize to any
stupid fellow!
The concept of Leon ordering himself as to what to do after attacking Stan, to me, always struck me as both comical and chiding. Another great example of the performance Hewlett gives. Just Leon has the proper amount of both menace and then a certain amount of plausible innocence that makes the character work. He hurts people when he is mad at them, and then there's a weird tiny voice of Pin in his mind, separate, either goading him on towards a subconscious behavior or telling him to stop. And either way, he truly is believing it is coming from a dummy and not from within himself. So, one thing I have to give credit to director Stern for, this film was changed from its source material, and I totally understand why. Stark differences from the novel Pin to the actual film exist, and with good reason. You see, in the novel, Leon and Ursula are in an on-again, off-again relationship with each other and Pin. Ursula herself, while as the higher functioning of the duo, at least has her own mental hang-ups to contend with, but can get out of the house and can function. She's healthy enough to be able to see that what the trio of them are doing together isn't a proper situation. And although it's an entirely functional situation, it is both a source of comfort and of dread to her simultaneously, which thus exacerbates her own anxieties and mental issues and causes her to try to break apart from her brother and Pin. But hey, don't kid yourselves. Yes, in the novel, there is a three-way relationship between two siblings and an anatomical dummy. And that is itself enough to be unnerving and weird. The version of Pin screened here at the LSCE was the 2001 joint Seville Pictures and Anchor Bay release. Came out kind of on a bare bones disc. It's a little light on the features, but the good news is you do get commentary track from director Stern, which has some interesting takes on the actual project they were working on, and it comes with a theatrical trailer. This, unfortunately, is a DVD that has gone out of print. You can still get it on Amazon Z Shops, or you can find it on eBay. Brand new copies tend to be running between $30 and $50 is what I've seen them posted as, which I would argue is a bit steep for a film of this nature. There is an independent Spanish company that has put out a disc that can be purchased online through Amazon and still considered new. It's a little bit of a steeper price, though. That clocks in at $29.63 as of checking last week. And, you know, I do think Pin is an excellent film. It's an underrated little cult gem. I don't know if shelling out $29, though, is the way to go. But if you could pick up a used or a gently used version, I think this is more of like a, $9.99 kind of purchase, which is what I paid for it back before it went out of print. Definitely well worth your time. Definitely a movie that should be seen. I am loath to do this, but if you're really hard up to see this film and don't want to have to haggle and try to get yourself an all-region DVD player if you don't already have one to view this Region 0 Spanish import, you can watch the entirety of Pin, A Plastic Nightmare on YouTube, at least as of last week. That would be June 15th. So that is an option. So just want to remind you all, folks, remember, please, we don't get anything here at the LSCE for recommending that you purchase a movie from any one particular vendor. We just do think it's very important to keep supporting physical media so that the companies that own these fine prints to the films that we love so much keep releasing them in versions that we ourselves can get. And at the end of the day, isn't that what we want? We just want to be able to purchase the movies we love, and so we can continue to see interesting things. And come on, this movie is bananas. It is such a weird, unsettling, strange piece of work. So don't miss it. do yourself the favor, go out, get a copy, or at least find a way to view Pin today. So how was Pin received upon release? Well, when it first came out, Pin didn't do much business in general. It had a full studio release, it went to theaters, it did get some ink spilled over it. The New York Times, Janet Maslin ended up calling it cool, bloodless. She said it was a well-made thriller. But it wasn't enough. Not enough people went to see it. So as quick as it came, it ended up going and being shuttled off into the dustbin. It was released the following year, May 28th, 1989, on to VHS, and it simply became a growing cult film. It got rentals, and it had people having good word-of-mouth buzz about it, sing its praises. If you go back and look at video guides, Pin often gets very high marks, 4 out of 5 stars or 5 out of 5 stars, with comments that it is just subtle, disturbing, brilliant. Great. More people need to see it. So that's going to wrap things up here for this episode of I Saw It on Linden Street. Thank you so much for joining us. If you like us, please give us a favorable review on Apple Podcasts or wherever you're listening to us at. Swing by, check out our website, lscep.com, where we have articles, episode links, and comics for you to peruse. We're also featured on Podchaser. That's a podcast database for listeners and creators alike. Find us there. Give us a follow and a review if you could, please. More reviews make us more searchable, and then we can share more things with more people. If you would like to get in touch with us, make a comment, ask a question, send us wonderful things, feel free, please email us at lindenstreetcinemaexperience@gmail.com. If you'd like to be even more personal or wish to contribute a segment on the sidecar, please, by all means, use the audio message app by way of Anchor, a free and easy app to use. So until next time, please take care out there, wash your hands everybody, stay healthy, stay safe, and remember, life's too short not to live in the past. Take it easy everybody.